Even though the sermon was over, Guy continued with his story. He claimed to be causing disasters regularly to remind humans who the common enemy of mankind was. The purpose, ostensibly, was to make people fear the existence of a powerful entity, so that they wouldn't spend all of their time engaging in pointless power struggles among themselves. When Grandal had been in charge, his approach was to wait and see how things would go, and refrain from taking any bold actions. But this time, Grandal's war against Luminas had upset the balance. Thus, Guy had ordered Misery to unite humanity with fear. With the deaths of the elected councillors, the leaders of the member nations within the council would reaffirm the threat of the demon lords. And by making that happen, the leaders of the Western nations would join forces. That was the scheme Misery had devised. Then, for some reason, White Testarossa was present in the assembly hall where Misery attacked. "Tisk, I'm so used to calling you by your old name, I said it by accident." Guy grumbled under his breath, then resumed recounting his experience. Misery abandoned her plan to avoid clashing with Testarossa. That was fine. The problem is, what comes next? As soon as we are unable to control those devious humans, they will start skirmishing. Moreover, now that the Rosso family has collapsed, the power struggles will undeniably intensify. It's just a fact of life. And with that tomfoolery of the Western nations in the midst of the Eastern Empire's suspicious movements, their defeat is all but certain. This is your fault, Rimuru. Tell me, what are you going to do? This was unexpected. I didn't know Guy's goal was ultimately to prevent the dissolution of the Western nations. He didn't seem particularly interested in humans, but he still might be concerned about them perishing. I mean, it did sound like the duty of the mediator. I didn't think he was on the side of humanity, and that his methods were rather extreme. Nonetheless, I felt that we could understand each other, depending on the way we did things. Therefore, the current point of contention was how to deal with the Western nations, which I intended to sort out. I didn't even know that Testarossa and Misery had encountered each other, but I couldn't use that as an excuse. I just wanted humanity to recognize our existence as monsters and build friendly relations with them. As I was wondering how to answer Guy, Diablo stepped forward. Ignoring Guy's slightly uncomfortable expression, he began to speak. We don't have to do anything unnecessary. We only need to help realize Rimuru-sama's ideals. Although I was anxious of what he might say, it wasn't like I had a better alternative. Our arguments about ideals wouldn't work on Guy, so I wagered on Diablo's confident attitude, but it appeared to be a failure. Diablo, to my surprise, started preaching about idealism, which I had dismissed as an ineffective strategy. What do you mean? It's simple, Guy. What is the point in tediously shackling people in fear? Indeed, fear makes people obedient. However, that's not the best way to utilize their full potential. What's more, remember that fear gradually fades away. Regardless of how much tragedy you inflict on mankind, they will eventually forget. Conversely, resentment will be the only thing that remains. Continue. Their resentment will eventually turn into hatred, and they will begin to seek revenge against the one that oppresses them. That's exactly what human beings, clever but lacking wisdom, will do, as they are not aware of the stark difference in absolute power between us. If they are instigated by monsterkind and the like, they will soon resort to committing foolish acts. Well, I would slaughter them before they could carry out those stupid decisions. Kufufufu, it'd be futile. Considering how stupid humans are, their memories about the massacre would eventually vanish. It is unavoidable because their species cycles through generations so quickly. But Diablo paused briefly, then faced Guy with a serious expression. Compared to the unipolar concentration doctrine of the Rossos, the redistribution of wealth rebuilds relationships between countries while maintaining some degree of equity. Thus, a new economic principle emerges. Which is the new economic principle. By providing the foolish human race with different options, they will be under the illusion that they are the ones who have chosen their own future, and innately believe that they created it. This system, unlike human memory, won't disappear over time. It will come to rule the world of man semi-permanently. Managing that will be Rimuru-sama's job, in other words, our job. Diablo is talking sense. If people believe they created it, then they'll take care of it themselves. I mean, was that even my original intention? I felt like I had said something along those lines, but I didn't think it was that big of a takeaway. Starting with the premise that it would succeed was also a little daunting. I see. If you control the economy and guarantee security for free, the weak will undoubtedly depend on you. A society in which everything is decided by a bloodless war. Maybe it is even better than what the Rossos had in mind. Guy nodded to himself, as if he now saw Diablo in a more positive light. Of course. It will be a world where many are happy, rather than an elite wealthy few. The supply and demand created there will produce new possibilities. That's Rimuru-sama's wish, Guy. Well, he isn't wrong. What I was looking forward to was the improvement of cultural life. Movies, music, comics, and novels. I wanted to see more entertainment available for the masses to enjoy. In order to create such art, possessing a stable livelihood was essential. I wish to help people lead fulfilling lives, so that new hidden talents could be discovered. With that being said, I haven't given it much thought beyond that. Meaning, once you experience and appreciate a blessed period of peace, you will be afraid to lose it. That's right. If I had to sum it all up in one word, it'd be the concept of gratitude. People would thank Rimuru-sama for protecting their peace, and therefore become cooperative for the sake of maintaining world stability. I believe it is more effective than your idea of control through fear. The next thing I knew, Diablo and Guy were nodding together as if they had understood one another. After listening to Diablo's conjecture about the future, Luminas and Leon and even their subordinates looked at me, seemingly impressed. I couldn't exactly reveal that this whole thing wasn't actually my original intention in this serious atmosphere. However, it'll require long-term outlook and careful calculation to put that into practice, won't it? If you don't manage it well, I can picture the number of people growing out of control. Could you look after and handle that many? Oi, they aren't exactly pets you need to take care of. Don't phrase it as if there's some Japanese rice fish pets that are getting overpopulated inside a fish tank. Are you implying that Rimuru-sama cannot see that far into the future? That may be an arduous task for you, but it's nothing Rimuru-sama can't handle in his spare time. So, allow me to inform you that there is no need to worry. Oi, why are you already assuming that I will manage it? To be honest, I believe I once told Diablo that it would just be like the demon lords who controlled the world from behind the scenes. If I said that in front of Guy and the others, they'd probably be annoyed. Though I was concerned, it turned out that my worries were unfounded. Rather, it was. I see. Well, I'll leave it up to you. I'm not too optimistic, but I have nothing at stake if you fail. The only thing left for me to do then is to weed out those stupid idiots with my own hands. Let's see how you handle your responsibilities. Guy commented with a surprising grin. Having been forewarned, all I could do was prepare myself for the worst. Since I had nodded in agreement with him earlier, I couldn't really say no now. Diablo exaggerated a tad, but he is, for the most part, not wrong. It's a bit idealistic, but I do hope that will happen one day. Even if you hadn't said anything, I aim to achieve world peace my own way. I promised Guy. Thus, before I could fully process what was going on, the Octagram had officially entrusted me with the management of the Western nations. Well then, it would have been nice to end the meeting on that pleasant note, but there were still other problems. Rimuru, I'll give you a small piece of advice. John, or Carrera, has a violent temper and a penchant for unleashing nuclear magic whenever she feels like it. If you don't keep a tight rein on her, this precious capital will be reduced to ashes. Warned Leon. Following that little bit of news, Luminas also shared her insight. That's right. Let me add another thing. As I mentioned earlier, the Violet that I know of is gloomy and malicious. She is a being synonymous with inhumanity. Unlike monsterkind, she does not seem to have any intention of eradicating the human race. On the other hand, she has a very fickle and volatile personality. Although she appears to be acting as a cheerful little girl in front of you, I suggest you keep your guard up. Yep, they both revealed something rather unsettling. What's more, even though it was never directly mentioned, it seemed that Testarossa was more troublesome than those two. This became a problem. No, it wasn't appropriate to say it became one. To be precise, I finally came to the realization that this whole situation was a massive headache. Now that I knew the three demonesses were actually primordial demons, I had to take charge of them. If something went wrong, then I would be held accountable for their actions. Despite the fact that they were supposed to be Diablo's subordinates, that excuse wouldn't fly. I had already promised Omija-san that I would take responsibility, so it was too late for me to refuse. I wanted to punch my naive self for not knowing what I was really getting into, but I guess I had to suffer the consequences for being such a carefree person at that time. Compared to managing human society, this one seemed to be a bigger pain in the ass. The thought made me depressed, and I let out a mental sigh. Once Guy finished talking, Ramiris, Dino, and Veldora stood up, as if on cue. Well, it seems like we're just bothering you guys, so I'll leave the rest to you. Right. I also have something important to do. Vesta-san is waiting for me, so I'll see you later, Guy. Then, I should return to guard the labyrinth. Ah, busy, gahahaha. Noting their well-rehearsed choreography, it wasn't hard to figure out that they were planning to escape. Dino, in particular, was evidently tired of having the proverbial finger pointed at him, and thus made his announcement without even a shred of sincerity. Huh. Guy retorted, and unable to let it go that easily, took another jab. You working? What a sorry excuse for a joke. No, it's the truth, came the reply, but instead of Dino, it was actually from Ramiris. You see, Dino is also helping out as my assistant. That bit of news came as a genuine shock to Guy. Dismissing whatever came from Dino's mouth was one thing, but when even Ramiris backed up his claim, Guy was left with no choice but to believe him. Dino is working. Really? Rimuru, just what kind of magic did you use? Guy's astonishment was directed at me this time, but I also struggled to come up with an answer myself. I don't know either. In our country, we have a simple rule. If you do not work, then you do not eat. He was no exception, that's all, no magic involved. I would have had a much easier time if that kind of convenient magic was at my disposal. Thankfully, I somehow managed to get my point across to Guy, since he didn't push the subject any further.